Hello, and welcome to Future Leaders in Philadelphia. I'm your host, Derrick Sawyer. We bring you this show in order to highlight young people in our community along with local organizations who are striving to make Philadelphia a better place. We want to focus on our next generation of leaders. On today's episode, we are talking with members of the Police Athletic League of Philadelphia. PAL, as it's commonly known, has had cops helping kids since 1947. PAL serves the city's 18,000 youth by providing sports programs, educational clubs, and field trips so it can get kids off the street and engage in a healthy lifestyle and activities. Philadelphia police officers run 17 centers in some of the city's highest crime and lowest income neighborhoods. Their mission is to reduce crime, build character, and improve educational outcomes with the city's youth. Today, we'll talk with people who run PAL, the kids who go to their centers, and police officers who work in the program and were once PAL kids themselves. To begin our show, we have two guests who oversee the entire PAL operation. With me are PAL Commanding Officer Lieutenant Evelyn Cintron and PAL Executive Director Ted Qualley. How are you?
Good.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
No, thanks for being with us.
We're excited.
So tell us, what does PAL mean to the youth in the community?
To inner city kids in the communities that we serve, high crime neighborhoods, low income, it means that they have a safe haven to go to get involved in positive PAL activities as opposed to being out on the street and being exposed to some of the dangers that are inherent to some of the communities that we serve.
Right, so as you've seen on the news, community relations is very important now. It's talked about in the news on a regular basis. How does PAL bridge that gap?
I think that in light of everything that's going on in our country, it's important that the police department reestablishes that legitimacy, but it's more important to establish those partnerships with the community that we serve. PAL is there to help bridge that gap so that the kids can have a positive interaction with the police officers that work at these centers.
So that's a good point. You bring up the interaction with the police. How important is it, that first interaction that a child has with the police? How important is that first interaction?
It's very important because I think that first impressions go a long way, and if a child has a positive interaction with a police officer, it eliminates a lot of problems later on, in life, especially, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of things that are going on in the country. You want the officers to see, rather the children to see the officers as someone that they can go to, that they can trust. Our officers at the center mentor these kids, and they care about these kids, and I think it's important for the community and the kids to see that part of policing and the great things that we're doing at the centers.
How many centers are there?
There's currently 18 centers, on our way to a goal of 25 across the city of Philadelphia. And as you said, we focus on those highest crime, lowest income neighborhoods. Another way to put what the lieutenant said, I think, is that we want that first interaction with a police officer to be a positive one, right?
Exactly,
and so we'd much rather them, any child, meet a police officer in a PAL center than in the back of a police cruiser. And when they have that opportunity to meet and to spend time together, and so one word that I think we use a lot is opportunity, right? PAL presents an opportunity to engage in a basketball program or to go visit a college campus. And so when kids have that opportunity to spend time in a positive environment with a police officer, it breaks down a lot of barriers. And I think that goes a long way, especially when times are strained.
Yes.
And so if tensions are running high, it's a completely different interaction when there's a positive and trusting relationship between law enforcement and the communities that they try to protect and serve.
Yeah, I agree. I think when you have that opportunity to have a positive relationship first, when things go bad, it's not as bad because you already have built that relationship. You have equity in the community with those students or the children, and then they know some of those officers already, so you have more of a trust relationship. But as the executive director, what do you see your impact being on the community?
So PAL's very unique in that it's a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and it's a unit of the police department. So us sitting here, we collectively represent PAL. It's those two entities coming together. And so in my capacity, I get up every day trying to figure out how to do more, how to raise more money, how to help create or enhance programs so that we can have more effective outcomes and more interaction with more kids, to support one unit of the Philadelphia Police Department, right? We're here to support one unit in perhaps the most important mission any unit can have, which is to help guide the youth of our city to prevent crimes from happening, right? To help them go down the right path as opposed to interacting later in life, perhaps under a lot of different circumstances.
Well, the one thing I like is that it involves boys and girls.
True.
So what is the age group that you cover?
We service kids between the ages of 6 and 18. We have a wide array of programs, organized sports, education, mentorship programs, as well as cultural programs. And in addition to that, we do a wide variety of citywide events.
Nice. So I know part of your mission is to move that needle to reduce crime. So one, how do you do that? And then two, do you think you're being successful?
I believe that we are being successful because even if we're touching one life, that's one child that we save from going in the wrong path.
Right.
But I think we are making a big impact in that a lot of our centers that have recently opened, we have shown a reduction in crime in some of those neighborhoods. When the kids are involved in something positive, that's the less likelihood that they will go out there and get involved in something that's not so positive, which it's really inherent to the neighborhoods that they come from.
Right, that's right.
So I think we are making an impact.
Yeah, and it's hard to quantify it, but we're taking steps to do so, right? So we look at CompStat data, and so it's a unit of the police department. We're able to access that data and look about 6,000 to 8,000 feet around PAL centers, called 6 to 8 blocks, right? To see, because that's where we stand the best opportunity to make an impact. The reason we're open after schools is because that's when juvenile crime spikes. Right. That's why we're an after-school program by design. Right. And so we look at those sorts of data sets to get a sense of if we're being impactful. Attendance is also a key indicator because when kids are coming in the centers, they can't be somewhere else doing something wrong. They can't be a perpetrator or a victim. That's right. And that's important. So attendance is sort of the first indicator, how many kids are in our centers. The second is how long are they staying? Because the longer they stay, there is research and science behind the sorts of programs, even as something as simple as basketball. We're not here to produce NBA players. No. We're here to produce better young men and young women, right?
They probably think
basketball, well, and we have.
That's right.
But basketball and inherent in all those sports is opportunities to move the needle on character.
That's great.
Right, and so we're beginning to measure the impact on that, but you can talk to any of the officers, and I know you'll talk to one of them in a couple of minutes, to see the impact that they make on these kids and in these neighborhoods. And when you build a relationship with a child, it extends to the family, it goes to the neighborhood, and the next thing you know, it does start to transform things.
Great. So another part of your strategic plan is educational outcomes. Now, we know that the school system is not the best, so how does that educational outcome piece help out with the children as far as having a better product?
Sure. So we can't hold ourselves accountable for everything like a PSAT scores or things like that, but we do think that when kids come to PAL centers and build a positive relationship with a police officer who's asking them about school, right, who's setting expectations for that child, where they have homework club and computer club, so an opportunity to do their homework, to ask questions, to get support. We have tutors in the centers. When they have those opportunities, we believe, and this is what we're measuring, that they're more likely to go to school because they feel more prepared. Right. And if they're going to school, they're more likely to go on to the next grade. So two very high-level education metrics, but those are the two things that we think when kids are coming to PAL centers and doing all the other things that we have going on, they're going to move the needle in those areas as well.
Great. So I know that PAL is a nonprofit. Do you depend on the community to support your effort?
We do. Yeah, we do.
So
the police department, and so it starts with the mayor and the police commissioner, they donate to PAL, basically the services, so the salary and benefits of the officers. So we don't have to raise the money to pay the officers, but everything else from centers to basketballs to homework clubs to computers, we're raising money from folks in the community to do that.
Great. Well, I want to thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
And I look forward to the good things happening with PAL.
Thank you.
When we come back, we're going to hear from a guest who can tell us what PAL is like from both sides. A young person involved in the program and as a police officer running those programs. Stay with us.
3, 2, 1, action. You may think a guy would be producing this, but I can too. Anyone can find a cure.
Women are being downgraded for their physical ability, but you can be just as strong.
"20% of women are engineers, but it doesn't stop there.
I'm a tech girl. I'm a tech girl.
I am a tech girl.
I am a tech girl."
Can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me something. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
It's about putting others first. It's doing your best at whatever you do. It's about being honest with yourself, with everything. It's all of these. It's more. It's commitment. This message is brought to you by the U.S. Air Force.
Welcome back to Future Leaders in Philadelphia. I'm your host, Derrick Sawyer. Today we're highlighting the members of PAL, the Philadelphia Police Athletic League. Right now, we have a Philadelphia police officer with us who was once a PAL kid himself, but now works as a leader in those centers. Please welcome PAL Police Officer Kareem Johnson. Kareem, how you making out?
Pretty good, man. Yourself?
I'm great. So thanks for joining us.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for having me.
So I hear that you came through with a police officer, Mike Pittman.
Yes, sir.
That was the person that kind of brought you through the process as a child?
Yes. Honestly, I would like to say I'm not just going to give him credit, but I'm also give credit to Officer Chapman. He was
Right.
actually my first initial PAL officer.
Right.
That before he went along to another unit, and Officer Mike Pittman took over. And pretty much everything else is
History.
history, yeah.
So how did he inspire you as a youth?
Honestly, to tell you the truth, as a youth, honestly, I was actually afraid of the police, in my neighborhood. But
Right.
until I started going to the local PAL center and engaging with Officer Mike and Officer Chapman, it actually built my confidence
Right.
more with the police officers, and it actually inspired me to end up wanting to become a police officer.
So they did have an impact on you becoming a police officer?
Oh, huge.
So how important is that to have that confidence? So as you see what's going on today, and there seems to be a slight disconnect in the community with police officers and our youth, how important is that to make sure that the youth understand you're actually there to help them?
Oh yeah, well, and like with what's going on today is real important because, with social media and the news portraying police officers as being bad,
Right.
the community actually gets to engage in us on a personal level.
Right.
And get to figure out, actually give them a better aspect of what police officers are about and don't just label us all the same.
Right, that's right. So when you went through that process, joining PAL, did it take a long time for you to build that trust, or was it a process, or did it happen instantly?
To tell you the truth, it kind of happened instantly because it all actually had to do with the person.
That's
It's
true.
not just the title.
Right.
It's actually the person.
Right.
So with my particular situation, a lot of times I would, confide in my PAL officer, and a lot of times I would forget that he's actually a police officer,
Right.
which built my confidence more
Great.
to trust in the police more.
So when you became a police officer, you went to the police academy.
Yes,
Did
sir.
you think that you would be in PAL in the beginning?
Honestly, to tell you the truth, yes.
You
Not
knew
from the
that's-
initial start, but I knew I was gonna have to, pay my dues in the street.
Gotcha.
And eventually, this is actually where I wanted to be because this is what POW did for me. So I actually wanted to return the favor and, you know, possibly do that for somebody else. I know you can't reach everyone,
Right.
you know, that you engage with, you know, in your center. But as long as you get one, possibly two, you know, it was all worth it for me.
So how long have you been in PAL?
I've been in POW 6 years now.
And in 6 years, how many lives do you think you have touched in those 6 years?
Honestly, can't give you a definitive number, but I would say a decent amount. I mean, just based off, you know, my interaction in the street when I'm off duty. You know, I run into POW kids all the time, or former POW kids all the time. And they always come to me and they'll tell me, you know, how much of a difference I've made in their lives or in their decision making.
So tell us about some of your mentors coming through the POW. You told me about the ones Pittman and Chapman.
Yes.
So were there other police officers that weren't in POW that you got to know that were able to mentor you?
To be quite honest, other than POW, I never really engaged with police officers like that as a youth. Never did because, as I was saying before, I was always afraid to even come within a certain distance of police.
So, all right, so once you graduated from the academy, did they continue to have an influence on you and continue to mentor you?
Oh,
so
most
when you get
definitely.
out of the academy, a lot of times you're still trying to learn the job and figure things out. And it's always good to have a mentor to kind of stop you from hitting some of those roadblocks or bumps in the road, right? So
yeah, most
tell us
definitely.
about that a little bit.
Well, actually, Officer Mike Pittman, he would always talk to me. Actually, once he found out I was on the department, he always reached out to me, you know, with advice or anything I would need because he experienced it already. So, you know, that was always a plus. I really didn't talk to Officer Chapman as much, but you know, we've passed each other time and time through court. But he would also give me advice too and, you know, reach out to me and let me know if there's anything that I needed. He was always willing to help.
So what's your favorite part? And when you're going to have influence on the children that come through the program. So what's the biggest thing for you that keeps you going strong? Because I know sometimes, like you said, you can't reach everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you keep going? How do you keep your head up when you have those one or two that you can't reach? Because once again, you don't want to lose anybody if possible.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't save everyone. How do you deal with those?
It's funny you asked that because I actually just got finished telling my partner yesterday what keeps me going is when I see a little boy walk in and ask me for a basketball or ask me to help him out with something, instantly I see myself. I mean, without hesitation, I see myself asking Officer Mike Pittman or Officer Chapman the same exact question. And that's actually what keeps me going. Every day is not, you know, peaches and cream. I'll be lying if I told you it was.
Right.
But those are the things that keeps me going, you know, that keep me going and keep me coming and wanting to figure out more ways to impact them or more ways to, you know, influence them.
Right. And what do you do when you have someone that clings to you? And a lot of the young men out there don't have fathers and they may cling to you a little bit. How do you work that out?
Oh, I embrace them instantly. I usually keep a close eye on them, or I'll take them to a lot of trips that POW provides for them. And most of the time, I just keep them around me as much as I can.
Right. So I want to thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate the hard work you do.
Appreciate it.
Keep up the good work.
Appreciate it.
Again, we're going to take a short break, but when we return, we'll have a couple of young people here to talk about why they visit the POW Athletic League. We'll be right back.
You might feel like there's too many problems in the world, or that, you know, you as a 15-year-old, 16-year-old can't really make a difference.
It's not always about you. It's not just one person. It's a group. It's a team.
Just that simple act is transforming someone else's life.
It's one of the best feelings in the world.
It'll just make you feel so good about yourself.
I'd do anything to convince you just to be a part of this.
We all have a role to play here at Richard Petty Motorsports. We respect each other, work hard, and that helped us get the big win in Daytona. My partners in the U.S. Air Force also know that it takes a team to make each mission a success. Your coworkers, family, and friends are your team. Treat them with respect, and together you can accomplish great things. This message is brought to you by the U.S. Air Force.
You are now watching LaSalle TV.
Hello, I'm Derrick Sawyer, and you're watching Future Leaders in Philadelphia. I've been talking with some of the people who run our police athletic league centers here in Philadelphia. Now, I have the pleasure of sitting down with two young people who take part in PAL activities. Joining me are Joshua and Jetsia. How you making out?
I'm good.
Welcome to Future Leaders in Philadelphia.
Thank you.
You know what that means, right? That means you're gonna have to be future leaders in Philadelphia. So just give you the heads up. So how long have you two been involved in PAL centers?
For me, 17 years.
17 years?
Since,
You started when you were 1?
I was 3 months old.
Okay.
And I just turned 18.
All right, great. Congratulations. 17 years. What about you?
I started when I was 7 years old.
So how long have you been in PAL?
I would say about, it's been long.
A long time? Too long to remember?
I started around 6, but I could say around 7 or 8.
All right, so I need each of you to tell me, what does PAL mean to you?
For me, it's an outlet to do things I wouldn't normally be able to do in the city. Like for the longest, I've been in the golf program.
Great.
I've been doing it my whole life, and without PAL, I wouldn't be able to even experience sports like that. I never dreamed I'd play golf, so.
Great. What about you, Jetsia?
PAL means to me that throughout kids' struggles, even though like in their past, many kids start off bad, but getting involved with PAL, it's like, it sets you free.
Nice.
Away from your troubles.
Right.
So.
Like an outlet.
Yes.
So you talked about golf. So what are some of the other activities that you get a chance to participate in just from being part of PAL?
I know PAL's had programs like Boys to Men. It's like a mentoring group.
Right.
You do things like build benches, learn life lessons. We'd go out on trips a lot. One time they took us to Maryland for a wax museum. So you get out a lot doing PAL. You get a lot of opportunities, and you do a lot of things with them.
Great. Jetsia, so what are your favorite activities?
I like Positive Image because it's a learning, sustainable program for young ladies to grow up to be proper, mannered females, phenomenal females. I've been in that program for a long time, so it's basically like cheerleading, like learning about different clothes, learning proper manners, and that's good to learn for young females.
Right. So do each of you have a favorite PAL officer?
I do have one.
Who's that?
I don't think I should say it, but Officer Sharon Wells. She was like an aunt I never had. I grew up with her and a lot of other officers. I've been around for a while, so I've had the opportunity to meet a lot of awesome people over the years, and I'm really glad I've been in PAL for as long as I have.
Great. So do you have a favorite?
I have 2.
2, great.
Yes.
That's even better.
But she's not here with us anymore, so her name is Vanessa Jennings.
Okay.
Yeah, I grew up with her. She's a part of my life and a part of me now. And Officer Johnson, yes.
So, being a part of PAL, are you considered leaders in your community?
I don't know.
Not sure?
I'm not sure how kids see me as.
Right.
I know there's parents that look to me for advice and stuff, so I guess you could consider me something like that.
So now you're both in high school, right?
Yes.
What's the future hold for you?
I'm gunning for college, so hopefully I get into something good.
You haven't decided yet?
Not really, but I'm looking towards Temple.
Temple, okay, that's a good school, Temple House. And you?
Well, I'll be taking courses at the ASPCA. I want to become a veterinarian or a doctor, if that's my backup plan.
Right.
I want to help the world too.
So what's your plan to give back to the community? You know that PAL has done a lot for you, as stated, and I'm quite sure as a leader in your community, you want to give back in some way. So what's your plan to give back?
It's a little unrealistic, but become famous and donate back to PAL.
Right.
My goal since I was I say 15 was to become a pro golfer, win the US Open, and give back to PAL as much as I can.
Great. And you want to be? Or give back how?
Well, I was thinking about landscaping.
Nice.
Help the PAL community, around their areas, clean up.
Right.
It's part of Green Means Go. I want to make the plows not also sound good, but look good as well.
Great. I want to thank both of you for coming on the show. You've been great hosts, and I look forward to great things in your future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, that's all the time we have today. I'd like to thank all of my guests from the Police Athletic League, Lieutenant Evelyn Cintron, Ted Qualley, Officer Kareem Johnson, and most especially Joshua and Jetsia. If you would like to find out more about PAL, you can visit their website at philippal.org. I'm Derrick Sawyer, and thank you for watching Future Leaders in Philadelphia, where we believe investing in our youth is investing in our future.